There is a specific kind of heaviness that settles in the chest when you realize you are not being heard. It's that tight, suffocating friction of explaining the same logical point for the 10th time, only to be met with a blank stare, or worse, immediate defensive anger. You know this feeling. The sensation of your words vanishing into thin air, leaving you feeling invisible, undervalued, and profoundly exhausted. It is the friction of wheels. That grinding, restless and seedy when you need a partner, a child, or a colleague to just see reason so you can but move forward, but they are ducking. It feels like you are trying to push a heavy stone uphill while wearing shoes made of lead. You might be thinking, if they would just listen, everything would be better. You see the cliff they are walking toward. You see the solution so clearly. And yet, the harder you try to pull them back, the harder they pull away. It's a desperate sort of age, isn't it? Realizing that your help is being perceived as an attack, creating a chasm between you and the person you are trying to reach. Welcome. In this quick corner of the internet, we do not shy away from these frustrations. We sit with them. We examine them. Because the struggle to influence, to guide, to make someone know what is right is old as humanity itself. But today we are going to look at it through the lens of the ancient Stoics. Not as a battle force, but as an art of nature. Let's begin by looking at the trap we often fall into. We usually approach influence with a hammer. We bring facts. We bring logic. We bring the sheer force of our will. We think, I am right, you are wrong, therefore you must change. But pause for a moment and consider the laws of physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This is true for matter, and it is true for the human mind. When you push against someone's ego, the natural instinct is not to analyze your argument. It is to push back. Imagine you are trying to get a flower to bloom. You cannot do it by prying open the petals with your fingers. If you do that, you destroy the very thing you are trying to cultivate. You snap the stem. You bruise the beauty. Yet this is exactly what we do when we try to force our will upon others. We demand. We gnaw. We explain aggressively. And then we wonder why the flower of the cooperation withers and dies. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught us that the root of our distress is often the category error. We mistake things that are up to us for things that are not. You control your intention. You control your words. You control your tone. But the mind of another person, that is their citadel. And as long as you are banging on the gates, trying to batter them down with your rightness, they will keep those gates barred shut. They have to. Because at that moment, they aren't fighting your logic. They are fighting for their autonomy. They are fighting to prove that they exist, that they have a say. So here is the first shift we must make. And it is a subtle one. To make anyone do what you want, you must first stop needing them to do it. I know. That sounds counterintuitive. It sounds like giving up. But stay with me here. When you are desperate for someone to change, you are signaling to them that they have power over. Your peace of mind is held hostage by the behavior. If they act well, you are happy. If they act poorly, you are miserable. You have handed them the keys to your emotional stability. And people, subconsciously, feel the weight of that expectation. It feels like a debt they didn't sign up for. It feels like pressure. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who caught command legends but struggled to guide his own son, understood this. He reminded himself constantly that to influence others, he first had to be master of himself. If you approach a conversation with the energy of "I need you to so this so I can feel okay," you have already lost. The Stoic approach is the art of inception. It is not about smashing a new operating system into the brain. It is about planting a seed so deep, so quickly, that they believe it grew there on its own. Think of a river. If you want to change the course of a river, you don't stand in the middle of the rushing water and scream at it to move left. You will be swept away. You will drown in the current. No. You go upstream. You quickly, patiently, zig a channel. You remove the obstacles. You create a path of least resistance. And 10, when the time is right, to where the flows where you want it to go, not because you forced it, but because it is now the most natural place for it to be. This is the essence of what we call Stoic Inception. It is the discipline of alignment rather than confrontation. It requires you to put down the hammer and pick up the mirror. It asks you to lower your voice so that they must lean in to hear you. You see, most of the time, we are so busy broadcasting our own signal that we forget the other person is running on a completely different frequency. We are shouting Fema while they are tuned to him. And then we get angry at the static. Seneca, another great Stoic sage, warned us about the importance of timing and delivery. He knew the truth delivered without care acts like a poison. It hardens the heart rather than opening the mind. So, howso we dig this channel? Howso we bypass the guards of the ego and plant the seed of change? It begins with a practice that is incredibly difficult for the modern mind, yet it is the most powerful tool in your arsenal. It begins with the empty cup. Imagine holding a cup that is filled to the brim with hot tea. If you try to pour more into it, if you try to pull your own wisdom, for logic, or your desires into that cup, what happens? It spills over. It burns your hands. It makes a mess. This is actually what happens when we try to influence someone who is currently full of their own emotions, their own grievances, or their own certainty. Zeno of Citium, the founder of our school, once said we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we speak. This is just a polite etiquette rule. It is a strategic maneuver. To influence someone, you must first create a vacuum. You must let them empty their cup. When you are in a conflict, or when you are facing resistance, our instinct is to interrupt. You want to correct the facts. You want to say, no, that's not what I meant. But every time you interrupt, you are refilling their cup with your own defensive noise. You are keeping the walls up. The Stoic practice here is profound silence. Active, intense silence. You look them in the eye. You let them speak. You let them vent into, they literally zone out of words. And when they stop, you don't jump in immediately. You wait. You let the silence hang there for a second or two. In that silence, they will often feel the weight of their own words. They will feel hurt. And because they feel hurt, they will subconsciously begin to lower the drawbridge of their fortress. They have emptied their cup, and only now is there room for a drop of your influence. Once the cup is empty, we move to the second step of inception. I call this the Trojan horse. In the ancient myths, the Greeks could not breach the walls of Troy with force. They battered the gates for 10 years and failed. But he succeeded when they offered a gift. Something that the Trojans willingly brought inside their own walls. In conversation, horse is agreement. I know. When someone is being unreasonable, the last thing you want to do is agree with him. It feels like losing. It feels like surrendering the truth. But remember, we are not trying to win a debate. We are trying to win the person. We are digging a channel for the water to flow. Marcus Aurelius often meditated on the concept of sympathy, connection between all rational beings. Even in the most misguided person's rant, there is usually a grain of truth, or at least a valid emotion. They might be wrong about the facts, but they are right about their feelings. They so feel disrespected. They are overwhelmed. Find a grain of truth. Isolate it. And validate it. Instead of saying, you're wrong because. She's saying, you can see why you feel frustrated by that. If I were in your shoes seeing it that way, I'd probably be upset too. So you feel the energy shift just hearing those words. You are no longer an enemy battering the gate. You are only standing next to them. You have aligned yourself with them. You are inside the fortress. And now that you are inside, you can plant the seed. This brings us to the third, and perhaps most refined step, the Socratic Seed. Socrates, the grandfather of Stoic thought, described himself as a midwife. He didn't give birth to ideas, he helped others deliver them. He understood a fundamental law of human psychology: people support what they create. If you tell someone what to do, it is your idea, and they will resist it. If you lead them to the conclusion, it becomes their idea, and they will fight for it. Stop giving commands. Stop making statements. Start asking questions. If you want your partner to be more financially responsible, don't lecture them on the budget. That is false. Instead, ask, where's we want to be in 5 years? What kind of freedoms we want? When the answer, ask, what do we need to change right now to make the freedom happen? Let them say it. Let them connect the dots. When the realization comes from their own lips, it bypasses the ego completely. It is not an invasion, it is an inception. You have guided the river, but the water is flowing under its own power. Now, I can hear the objection rising in your mind. This sounds great in theory, but you don't know the person I'm dealing with. They are volatile. They scream. They shoot down. This is where the philosophy must become a physical practice. We must talk about a mirror mechanism. Human beings are hardwired for emotional contagion. We are biological mirrors. If we smile, you feel an urge to smile. If we panic, your heart rate goes up. If we yell, your body prepares for a fight. Most of us are unaware of this, so we become slaves to the mood of the room. If the other person is angry, we get angry. We let the storm crash our boat and sink us. But the Stoic reverses the flow. Here at the Stoic Sanctuary, we speak often of the inner citadel. This is the part of you that is untouchable. When the other person escalates, you do not meet them there. You do not match the volume. You ground yourself. You slow your breathing. You lower your voice. There is an immense power in becoming the rock till the waves break against. If they are screaming and you are whispering, a strange thing happens. They cannot hear you. They have to stop screaming to hear what you are saying. They have to regulate themselves to match your frequency. You are not just controlling yourself by holding your ground, you are subtly controlling the entire dynamic of the interaction. You are forcing them to de-escalate without ever telling them to calm down, because we all know that telling someone to tremens might cause a tone of fire. Instead, you just are calm. You embody the stillness you want to see in them. You become the standard. But there is one final piece to this puzzle. A piece that requires the most courage of all. Because sometimes, despite the listening, despite the Trojan horse, despite the Socratic questions, they still won't move. What then? Sometimes, the seed needs winter before it can find spring. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is to stop moving altogether. Seneca, a man who navigated the treacherous courts of Rome, once said the greatest remedy for anger is delay. In our modern urgency, we feel that if we don't fix the problem now, right in this conversation, we have failed. We push for a resolution while emotions are still high. But true influence often happens in the space between the words. There is a magical phrase that can disarm almost any conflict. Let me think about that. When you say this, you are stepping off the battlefield. You are signaling that you take them seriously enough to ponder their words, but you respect yourself enough to react impulsively. You reach the seed time to germinate in the dark. Often, people will change their minds not while you are wing vacant at the hatam, but 2 days later, while they are washing the dishes, simply because you gave them the dignity of space. But let us go deeper still. Let us strip away the techniques and the tactics and look at the raw truth of influence. The only way to truly make someone change, the only way to fundamentally alter their trajectory, is to show them a better way of living through your own actions. You can argue for discipline until you are blue in the face, but if you are undisciplined, your words are hollow. You can beg for kindness, but if you are harsh, you are a hypocrite. Marcus Aurelius gave us the ultimate directive when he said, "Was no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be on." Peoples do not follow advice, they follow examples. If you want your partner to be calmer, be an oasis of calm. If you want your children to be resilient, let them see you handling adversity with grace. This is the highest form of inception. It is not about manipulating their thoughts, it is about inspiring their soul. When they see the peace you possess, when they see the strength of your character, they will naturally want what you have. They will come to you and ask, "How's are you, Zoe?" And that is when the door is truly open. However, we must end with the hardest Stoic lesson of all. The lesson that protects your heart when all else fails. You might listen perfectly. You might validate their feelings. You might ask the right questions, and life is a perfect example. And yet, they might still choose to walk the wrong path. They might still choose conflict. They might still refuse to grow. And you must be okay with that. This is the concept of aim or fate, living your fate. Your worth as a human being is not tied to your ability to change others. Your worth is found in your own virtue, in your own intentions. If you have done your best to guide a river, and the river still floods, you had not failed. You have simply encountered the nature of the world. To tether your happiness to the actions of another is to build your house on sand. You must build your castle on the bedrock of your own mind. When you finally release the desperate need for them to be different, a paradox occurs. You stop vibrating the hat anxiety. You stop pushing. And in that space of no resistance, you often find that the relationship heals itself. Or you find the strength to walk away with your peace intact. So, as we close the session in this quiet corner of the internet, I want you to return to the present moment. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the air in your lungs. Realize that the only mind you can truly master is the one listening to my voice right now. You have the tools. You have the perspective. The rest is not up to you. If this message found you at the right time, and if you are ready to stop forcing the river and start guiding it, commit to this practice. Comment the word stillness below. Let that word be your anchor. Let it be a signal that you are done fighting wars you cannot win, and you are ready to build the inner citadel that no one can destroy. Stand firm. Be the example. And let the water flow.